Hello and welcome to our T4 training sessions for Yellowfin for BI Best Practice. Our lesson today is lesson 3, which will be focusing on metadata or view best practice within Yellowfin. In this session today, we're going to be looking at a number of our best practice tips and suggestions. Looking at how you can structure items within your metadata level, how to manage things like formatting, arrangements, aggregations, how to edit and some of the edit methods for your view creation, and also just some of the general best tips for how to make those metadata or views as effective as possible when you're looking to create your reports on top of those. So looking at our best practices, the first one we have here is really a nice simple one to get started with. Is one thing we do really recommend is making sure you're bringing in business style names and descriptions. So in the metadata level, you have a lot of scope for setting descriptions and names for the metadata, and we really recommend making sure these fields, the fields and metrics that you're addressing, really match naming conventions that you have for the organization. So what you're doing there is really making sure that you're using a language that fits your organization and that it's more business user oriented. So Yellowfin itself is a tool that is targeted at both regular business users and also the more technical users. So making sure you have well-structured business names and descriptions, and also easy to understand ones, will make the process a whole lot easier when users are running reports or even creating reports. So they have that easy ability to understand exactly what a metric and field is there to do and its purpose, and be able to utilize that effectively. Even things like descriptions are very useful there. So if you see a particular field in your report that you don't understand, all you do is hover over that at the report creation step, and you'll instantly see a description saying this is the purpose of the metric, this is where it should be used. So making sure that information is there, it's set up and it's available for report creators and report consumers to make it easier to interpret, to understand the reports and the data. One other thing we do recommend is to make sure you do define the logic for any things like custom metrics or fields that you do have within your metadata layer. So again, similar to the descriptions, if I'm looking at a key calculated field, I see its ratio, but I don't know what is the ratio made up of. So maybe I can put that in as part of a description to say the denominator is the actual, the numerator is the target, and this is the calculation that it's undergoing. So making sure everything's plain in business speak so that everyone can understand that. So it makes that job of interpreting or using that data in a report, in a created report, a whole lot easier. We also do see a lot of dates used within Yellowfin, especially in the metadata level, and we do find there's a lot of untapped potential there for date fields. So what we always try to do, and what we recommend our users do when they're creating their view or their metadata layer, is to really leverage those date fields that you do have and add a lot of flexibility to your reporting. And that could be in the case of creating more aggregated fields to use for your data analysis or your group bys. So a nice example could be you have a date field, and from that you use the fields in your metadata level to create a year or a quarter or a month or a week that you can then drag into your report and see the data aggregated instantly up at that level. Really adding flexibility there, because users will now be able to choose, okay, I might want to see this level in this report, but I might want to see a month in another report. So having a range of date functions available to be used for different report requirements. You can also bring in things like date lookup tables. We see that used quite often for some organizations. And that can be a straight replacement for the creation of fields like year, quarter, month. You may have a particular table that's a date lookup table that you join into your, add in to your metadata level, join into your schema, and you can then leverage those fields that are coming from that table to add those more aggregated time periods as fields that you can then use in your reporting. But if you're looking at being able to create those fields and metrics, as I mentioned in that second point, when you do go and create your metadata level, what you'll see on the left is you'll have a whole range of date hierarchy fields that you can just drag and drop into your available fields. And what you can do then is start building up that content. So I could drag across a year, and as you see here, I've based that on my date field, and that's now bringing across a year field that I can start analyzing by. And there are a range of different date periods that you can bring through there to again add flexibility to your Yellowfin reporting. We also do recommend that you really can build out the view layer, the metadata layer, so that you have a lot of options available for your report creators. And one way to do that is to use predefined filters and filter groups. So you may see that when you're creating a lot of reports, you may be reusing the same filter logic a number of times, and that could mean that you have to drop your filter field in, you have to set up the logic, you have to define the default values. So doing that for 10, 20 different reports can be cumbersome, and that means it's duplication of effort. Whereas what you can do in Yellowfin is you can create predefined filters at the metadata level that you can just drag and drop into your reports, and instantly that filtering is applied. So what this can do is this can help speed up development of reports, but also it means that you have a centralized source of the truth there. So you have your year-to-date calculation in one place, not spread across 10 reports, and you can easily update that or change that in one place without having to go through a stack of reports. On top of that, you also have filter groups, which give you some options around if you're looking at having a set of filters that are reused in a number of reports. Again, it goes along the lines of the predefined filters, where you don't want to have to recreate those a number of times. You want to create those once at the metadata level and have that then centrally stored and maintained, but then available for a number of reports. And that's what filter groups would do for you. So if we have a look at a nice example of this, this is an example of a filter group. So we can see here that we've dragged across our filter group from the left hand side. This is the second step of our metadata or view creation, and what we've done is we've dropped in 3 fields that we want to always have as our filters, and we can easily double click on those to set up the logic and make that logic then available at the report level. So if you're looking at where those actual predefined filters and filter groups come from, if we have a look at this is what you would see at step 2 of your view or metadata level. You would see on the left hand side you would have a lot of your options around calculated fields, including your formula builders, and here you can see the filter groups I mentioned before, but also the predefined filters. So all you would need to do is drag across your filter into the available categories on the right, and what you would do then, double click on that, and it would prompt you to add in your logic. So maybe year-to-date filter is when the year is greater than 2015, or some other kind of logic where you can reference other fields, date periods, metric values. And once they're set up, like these 3 filters here, you can just drag and drop them into your reports, and that'll instantly apply that logic. But you can still go and maintain these predefined filters at this metadata level.